Hey guys, so my name is Marlene Garcia, and today we're going to be talking about some great mathematical feuds. We're going to talk about two specific mathematical feuds, and the first one is the Cardano and the Tartaglia feud. As you guys know, we did discuss this in class, but we are going to go a little bit more in depth in it. So we're first going to start talking about their biography. So Gerolamo Cardano. So he was born in Milan, Italy in 1501. So he came from a really wealthy family. It was said that his family knew Leonardo da Vinci, which was one of the famous people that they knew. Since he also came from a wealthy family, that meant that he had a lot of privilege into going into very wealthy, good schools. So at a very early age, he showed a really great talent towards math. And even though he had like a really good talent for math, when he was like at an older age and he was able to go to like university, he's decided to pursue a medical career instead of going into like a math degree. Or it was even surprising since his dad was also like a lawyer. Yeah, but at the age of 19, he was able to attend school at the University of Pavia, and that's where he decided to pursue his medical degree. And then he also, at the age of 25, was able to attain his medical degree at the University of Padua. During this time, he also became a very good gambler. I guess he also wrote like a disquisition where he introduced the idea of probability, which was pretty new at that time. And in 1545, he published Ars Magna, and this is actually like a very like big topic in this presentation since it kind of focuses. That's where like the feud leads into it, where it gets like worse in a way. Um, During this time, he also had three kids named Chiara, Aldo, and Giambattista. Those three kids definitely gave him some hard time, and I know from what I read was that it also kind of affected his health in a way. So both Chiara and Giambattista died. So the way Chiara lived was she got married into like a person with like a good amount of money, but she then got divorced, and the husband asked Cardano to pay for their divorce and to also keep compensating him for like the baggage that he gave him. I guess also it was stated that Chiara was a promiscuous woman, and that's why he wanted to get a divorce from him. And then Chiara later died from, I believe, syphilis. And so Giambattista also didn't have like a good life in a way. He married to like a noble family. His wife already had three kids, and the wife would go around town telling people like, "Oh, he's not the dad of like the father of my kids. He's not the father of my kids." And eventually, Giambattista got tired of it, and he poisoned his wife. So he killed his wife and then was then prosecuted for killing her and was later executed, which the execution kind of took like a big hit in Cardano. To Cardano, Giambattista, it was known that he was his favorite son. So it actually took like a really big toll on him. Yeah, he also had his other kid, Aldo. Aldo was definitely something else. He was a rebel and he actually didn't have like a good relationship with his father. At an early age, he was already showing signs into having like a gambling problem. He even got into a really big debt and would ask his father to pay off his debt, but eventually Cardano got tired of it and kicked him out of his house. And then from what I read, it also stated that Aldo went into his house and robbed him, and then Cardano would just turned him in and put him in jail for basically going in and stealing his stuff. And then from there, after all of that happened, obviously Aldo had something against his father more than he already did. So he turned Cardano into the Spanish Inquisition, where he was later released. But during this time, Aldo worked with Tartaglia, which we will get more into it. But he worked with Tartaglia to get like more like um his what he was doing basically like get whatever details he could have against him. since like Tartaglia was like super bitter towards Cardano. Um, After he was released, he lived in obscurity in Rome. It was said that he was working on his biography, but he wasn't able to finish it, which since he died in 1576. So next we're gonna talk about Tartaglia. Um, Unlike Cardano, Tartaglia had like a very different life. He was actually he came from a very poor family. So at the age of 6, he lost his father, and that kind of he didn't really have like a much of a father figure besides his mom. From there, at 12 years old, he suffered an attack that left him with a speech impediment. I believe there was like a raid in his hometown, and there was a soldier who saw him and kind of like wounded him and like stabbed him, I believe, 5 times. And he presumed that, I guess, he thought that he was dead and kind of just left him there. But from like, obviously, he didn't die from a miracle, but that attack did leave a mark on him, which was the speech impediment. Um, that's why he was kind of nicknamed Tartaglia, since Tartaglia is like a word in Italian that means stutter, like he's a stutterer. Um, he also started to show a really great gift towards calculations. And his mom knew it. Like she knew that he was great at calculations, so she got a benefactor. She was able to get a benefactor to take him to university and help him grow as a mathematician. So, he was then taken to the university town of Padua. At the age of 20, he started teaching math privately. From there, he started to participate in public contests and disputes at the age of 34. Now, this is where like things kind of start going. So he went against Antonio Fiore, who claimed he could solve cubic equations. Now, this is where basically like the whole feud in a way was starting. So he went on against Antonio Fiore, and in that contest, they had 30 questions where they needed to solve, and whoever solved them the fastest and the quickest and were actually right, then they would win the contest. So um Tartaglia found out that Fiore was only capable of solving cubic equations in the form of x cubed plus 8x is equal to d. So from there, since he knew that, he kind of incorporated the other form of the cubic equation, which was, I believe, was x cubed plus cx squared equals d. So since Fiore didn't know how to solve them, Tartaglia kind of had like that advantage of winning the contest. So he was able to win, since Fiore didn't know how to solve those other types of equations. So after that, he was able to gain fame after winning against him. And so after he gained fame, it was kind of, well, we'll get more into it, but Cardano found out about Tartaglia knowing how to solve the cubic equation, and so asked them later for the solutions. But like I said, we'll get more into it. So in 1547, Tartaglia went against Ludovico Ferrari in a public contest. So Ludovico Ferrari he was Cardano's assistant and servant. I believe like at the age of 15, Ferrari served Cardano's family, and from there kind of became kind of close. And Cardano helped Ferrari develop his mathematical career, which we'll get more into it. After withdrawing, Tartaglia lost a bit of public esteem and reputation. I believe he also lost his teaching post. I'm not sure where he lost it, but I know he lost it and became very bitter against Cardano. And that's when he plotted against Cardano by using Aldo, his son, as a spy on Cardano's life. So he then died in 1557, which kind of, in a way, died before Cardano. So the death of Cardano was the end of the feud, and that's where everything just ended and left like a big mark in the mathematical world. So we're gonna talk about the Cardano Tartaglia feud, like how it started. So like I previously stated, once Tartaglia won the Fiore and Tartaglia dispute, news broke out that Tartaglia knew how to solve the cubic equation. So he tried to, I know Cardano tried finding the general solutions to the cubic equation, but he wasn't very lucky on finding it. So he resorted into going directly to Tartaglia and asking him like, "Hey, can you show me how to solve those so I can, like show the world how to do it?" And obviously, um, he failed, and Tartaglia at first declined, and he called them greedy, that he wouldn't contribute to the mathematical world for his own benefit. So from there, Cardano at first, before he said that, Cardano proposed like, hey, like if you give me the solutions, I'll put them in the book I'm currently writing, which wasn't the Ars Magna. It was actually the Arithmeticae Generalis. Um, he did say he would give credit to Tartaglia, but Tartaglia declined since I believe he wanted to put his own work first before telling someone else, oh, like put it for me in a way. He wanted to receive the whole credit since it was his solution. But after Cardano called Tartaglia greedy and now wanted to contribute into the math world, they both met in Milan, Italy, where Tartaglia decided to give Cardano a cryptic poem. But before giving it, Cardano had to swear an oath where he would not publish the solutions without Tartaglia first doing so, since again Tartaglia wanted to be the first one to publish his own solutions before someone else would. Um, and that's when things get messy. So once Cardano, well, after he gave the cryptic poem, um, Cardano was still unable to figure out how to uncrypt it in a way. So he went back to Tartaglia and asked them for help, which Tartaglia didn't oppose to it. And then once that happened, Cardano and Ferrari found solutions to the x cubed plus the x squared equals d thing. And then from there, they used those. Before they did that, they first used solutions from the easier cubic root, which is just the x cubed plus the x is equal to d. From there, after they found those solutions, Ars Magna was then published where he included the solutions to the cubic. And obviously that meant that Cardano broke that like the sacred oath that he gave Tartaglia, and that really made Tartaglia even more bitter. So it was like, oh, you promised me, and yet you still broke that promise. Yeah, so that's how thing basically got really messy. So Tartaglia ridiculed Cardano's mathematical ability, and Cardano didn't want to make it even worse, so he just didn't say anything. But his assistant Ludovico Ferrari, he he was actually pretty mad that he did that. Like, why would you say stuff about like the person who helped me grow as a math individual? So he instead attacked Tartaglia. I believe in the readings, in one of the readings, he said that Tartaglia didn't really, his discoveries weren't really his, that he just kind of copied someone and took credit for it, which Tartaglia, which it made him really mad. So they had a public dispute where Ferrari won. They both included, it was similar to the Fiore dispute, but there are many details about it for some reason. But we just know that Ferrari won, and this kind of had like a big impact in Tartaglia's life. Um, Later, Tartaglia died without publishing his solutions to the cubic equations. I believe many tried to publish his solutions, but there isn't any history behind it. Like, oh, like where is it? They just couldn't find it. And then years later, like I previously stated, Cardano also died, which was basically his death just was the end of the feud. Um, so now we're gonna talk. Well, we're gonna show an example using the Cardano and the Tartaglia method. So we're gonna find all of the solutions of the equation of x cubed plus 3x squared plus 12x minus 16 is equal to 0. So we're first gonna find the coefficients of the equation. So we're gonna let a equals to 1 and b is equal to 3, where both are coefficients, and we're gonna let the square root of -1 is equal to I, since it is an imaginary number. And then from there we have this expression for the value of x. So we're gonna let x equal to y minus b over 3a, and then from there, since we do know the coefficients of a and b, we're gonna plug those in into the original equation right here, and then we're gonna get that x is equal to y minus 1. So from there, since we do know the value of x, we are gonna plug in the value of x into the main equation right here. And then after some substitution, foiling, and cancellation of like terms, we end up getting this. Y cubed plus 9y minus 26 is equal to 0. Then from there, we're going to use their method, which was to include different variables to make things easier. And then we're going to get that u cubed minus v is equal to 26. And the way we got that is we do have, these are their little bag of tricks. And we're gonna subtract, well, add 26 on the other side, and this is how we get it. So u cubed minus v cubed is equal to 26, and then uv is equal to 3. So the way we got 3 is, I believe the equation is uv equals p over 3, and p is basically just a coefficient in front of the second term of this equation, so 9y, so basically 9 over 3, which just gives us 3. And then we're gonna have y is equal to u minus v. So first we're gonna solve u cubed minus v cubed is equal to 26. So we're gonna first solve for u cubed. So we just basically move the negative v3 to the other side. And then we get u cubed is equal to 26 minus 27 over u cubed. So the way we got 27 over u cubed is since we first know, where is it? So since we first know the uv is equal to 3, we can solve for v, which we would just divide by u, which we would get v is equal to 3 over u. And then since we're trying to find the cube of it, we just cube both sides, and then we just get v cubed is equal to 3 cubed over u cubed, which by some algebra, we just get v cubed is equal to, again, 27 over u cubed. And then since there's way too many like numbers and letters, we're just gonna let alpha equal to u cubed. And then from there, we have that alpha is equal to 26 minus 27 over alpha. And then we're gonna move everything to one side. So we're gonna have alpha minus 26 plus 27 over a. But since we're trying, it's equal to 0, but then we're trying to get rid of the alpha at the bottom of the 27, so we're going to multiply by alpha on both sides, and then that's how we get alpha squared minus 26 alpha plus 27 is equal to 0. And then by doing some foiling and stuff, we get that alpha, we have two coefficients, so we have, well, not coefficient, but we have two things. So we have alpha minus 27, and we have alpha plus 1. And that way, we can just get the value of alpha by subtracting alpha minus 27 is equal to 0, which just gives us 27, and alpha plus 1 is equal to 0, which just gives us negative 1. So from there, we have alpha is equal to 27 and negative 1. And then from there, since we do know alpha is equal to u cubed, we have 27, u is equal to 27 minus 1. But again, recall that alpha is equal to u cubed, which means it's just the cube root of alpha, which is equal to u. So from there, we can just have the cube root of 27, which is 3. And again, the cube root of negative 1 is just 1. So from there, since we do know the values of this, we can just substitute the values into the expression stated above to get x is equal to 1. And now, since we do know that x is equal to 1, we can use it to simplify the main equation. And from there, we have x is equal to 1. So that just basically, if we're trying to put it back in its original form, we have x minus 1 is equal to, yeah, x minus 1 is equal to 0. So we can just use synthetic division to break it down, to break down the cubic, and then that way we'll have a quadratic equation. Oh, yeah. And then we can use synthetic division to get x cubed plus 4x plus 16 times x minus 1 is equal to 0. And to solve the quadratic equation that we have, we can just use the quadratic formula. And then from there, we'll have x is equal to negative 2 plus or minus 2 times the square root of 3 times I, since I is an imaginary number. And then we just get that the values of x is equal to 1 and -2 plus the 2 times the square root of 3 times I, and as well as -2 minus 2 times the square root of 3 times I. So that's just how basically Cardano and Tartaglia were able to solve such cube roots that are pretty hard to solve without first breaking it into quadratic equations. So next we're gonna solve a formula in this form. So we're gonna find the formula to solve for a cubic equation. So we're gonna create a formula in the form of ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d, for a, b, c, and d are in the reals and a is not equal to 0. So from there, we're first gonna let x is equal to y minus b over 3a. And from there, since we do have, in a way, the value of x, we're gonna plug that in into the main equation, and we're gonna get this whole thing. So we're gonna get that this is equal to a times y minus b over 3a cubed plus b times y minus b over 3a squared plus c times y minus b over 3a plus d. And then by some algebra and moving some constant terms, we get this expression here, which is kind of starting to look really ugly and messy already. So we're gonna get y cubed plus -b squared plus 3ac over 3a squared times y minus 2b cubed minus 9abc over 27a cubed. And again, we're gonna kind of, in a way, use their method, and we're gonna introduce the variables u and v. So we're gonna let y equals to u minus v, u cubed minus v cubed is equal to the third term of the expression we got above, which is just this right here, minus -2b cubed minus 9abc over 27a cubed. And we're gonna let uv is equal to the second term, and we get that -b squared plus 3ac is over 6a squared. And we're gonna let v equals -b squared plus 3ac over 6ua squared. So from there, we're gonna solve for u cubed minus v cubed, which is equal to -b cubed minus 9abc over 27a cubed. And by moving -v cubed to the other side to just have u cubed by itself, we get this. Like I said, it's already starting to get really ugly and messy. So we get -2b cubed minus 9abc over 27a cubed minus -b squared plus 3ac over 6ua squared to the cube root, to the cube. And then from there, we're gonna let z is equal to u cubed, since it's getting really messy, just to make things simpler. And then we're gonna get this after. And then by using the quadratic formula, we get this thing. As you can see, it's ugly and messy. And then from there, we're gonna put the value of u cubed, of z, into that. So that's how we get u cubed. From there, we have the u cubed is minus v cubed is equal to -b cubed minus 9abc over 27a cubed. And then to solve for v cubed, we can just move u cubed, and then we get that. And since we have that y is equal to u minus v, then by substitution, we can just substitute the value of u and v. And since we know the value of u was this, we just do the cube root of it, and that's how we get this big thing. And for v cubed, we just did the cube root of it again, and then that's how we were able to get the cube root 3. And then that's where we have this stuff. And then from there, since we have that x is equal to y minus y minus b over 3a, we can substitute the values of y into the equation to get this big thing right here. So from there, we were able to see the solutions, the formula to solve for the cubic equation, which is pretty messy, and yeah. So conclusion. So as we were able to see, we were able to find the solutions to the cubic. Well, they were able to find the solutions to the cubic, but that kind of led them to the big feud. which kind of included the publication of Ars Magna, where everything just kind of got worse. Since the book included the solutions to the cubic, that's where, like I said, Tartaglia got really bitter towards Cardano, and that's where everything went downhill for him, as well as Cardano. Their rivalry became worse to the point where, like I said, Tartaglia just plotted against Cardano and did everything he could in his power to just see the downfall of Cardano's life. Um, After they both died, they also did leave a big impact in the mathematical world. Without it, honestly, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't really know how to solve these types of equations, since it is kind of like an easier way to find it and breaking it down into like even like a quadratic equation, since we do know how to solve quadratic equations in a simpler form. We can use their method in today's world to solve the cubic. I know the in our math classes, we're able to solve those cube roots, and it's, I believe, like, well, now we use like a simpler form of solving it. We just break it down, and there you go. In my opinion, I kind of just there was a question where it was asking like, oh, like which side do you lean on? Like, are you like Cardanos or Tartaglias? And honestly, for me, it was like I was like I kept going back and forth, but I would say maybe Cardano. Like I don't know if it's just I just feel bad or what, but it was kind of shady and messed up the way Tartaglia handled everything after. Like, yeah, I get it. Like, you shouldn't have done that, but just making it worse than like plotting against your rival to make his life even worse than it already is. Like after losing your kids, like that's kind of already messed up, man. Like I don't know. I wouldn't personally like go for that. That's why like I kind of just lean towards Cardano. Like he was like pretty like something else too. Like I know he had anger issues and everything, but I don't know. For me, Tartaglia was he was wrong for whatever he did at the end. Like you had a whole life left. Like you could have done something more to it. You could have like probably found more discoveries, but you kind of just were there plotting against him. Uses his like own son for just for what just to make it worse. Like I don't know, but yeah. Um. So that's the conclusion for it. And thank you.